The full moon carved cold light across the mountain's stone faces, and Patrick Hawks made his final patrol alone. He swept his flashlight across the granite, and the beam caught something wrong. Washington's eyes weren't staring ahead anymore.
Rule 4. Never count the carved presidents during a full moon.
His lips moved against his will, starting the count in a whisper, and he forced himself still before the first number left his throat.
22 years. I have never broken a rule.
But the shadow on Washington's face drew his eyes again, a faint distortion, a shift in the stone. He counted in his head before he could stop. Lincoln, Jefferson, Roosevelt, Washington, and his mind froze on a shape beyond the fourth.
There is no fifth.
He killed the flashlight, letting the moonlight reclaim the granite. The mountain was silent, indifferent.
Another third Friday, another full moon, and for the first time, a crack in his certainty.
22 years earlier, Patrick had stood in this same station as a green recruit, and the rules were the first thing pressed into his hands. The old caretaker who trained him, Emmett, a leather-skinned relic, had crooked a finger at the mountain and said the stone keeps its own ledger.
Rules for a pile of rock. I'd thought it was campfire hokum.
Emmett's voice was granite gravel when he told of the climber who broke Rule 5 on a third Friday, 20 years before that. The man had climbed to Roosevelt's chin when the granite seemed to shift. He was absorbed, his scream swallowed silent. Patrick never laughed again after hearing the details. How the man's family received an envelope containing only granite dust.
After that, I memorized every word on that sheet.
Emmett had added one more thing before he retired. The mountain chooses its caretakers. Understand that, and you'll last. Patrick had believed ever since, until tonight. Under the full moon, his own certainty cracked.
Maybe the rules aren't just old ghost stories. Maybe Emmett was right.
The next morning, the sun stripped the night's shadow from the station windows, and Patrick spread the rule sheet before a young ranger named Lena Cortez.
Never count the carved presidents during a full moon? That's actually written down?
Every word on that sheet is kept for a reason. You don't have to believe it, but you'll follow it.
Have you ever tested it? Counted them yourself under a full moon?
The question slipped under his skin like a splinter.
I mean, if there's no fifth face, what's the harm?
Because he'd seen the shadow last night, and it had looked like a face.
He forced himself to answer, his voice steady.
You don't test rules that have kept people alive for decades. Your first solo night shift is Friday. You'll understand then. But her question stayed. What if the rules were more than tradition? What if the mountain really did have a fifth?
That same evening, the mountain was still washed in silver. Patrick walked his rounds, but his eyes kept straying to the carved faces.
Lena's question echoed in his skull. Tested it. Number. He'd never dared.
He stopped at the overlook and raised his flashlight. The beam washed over Roosevelt's carved brow. For a heartbeat, a dark mass clung to the stone beside Roosevelt's head, a shadow that did not belong to the ridge.
He blinked hard, and the shadow dissolved into ordinary moonlight. Nothing, just light and stone.
But his hands shook against the cold metal of the overlook railing.
He had guarded this mountain for 22 years. He knew every inch of stone. That outline was not weathering.
He did not count. He lowered the beam.
But next full moon, he would bring a camera, and then he would know.
The weeks before the next full moon brought quiet disturbances. During a spotlight check, he heard a distant tap-tap of chisel on stone.
No restoration crew was scheduled. That sound came from inside the granite.
The sealed Hall of Records door wept fresh stone dust, fine as ash. At the foot of that same door the next evening, a chunk of stone lay curved like a human nose. He carried it to John Dorsey's cluttered office and placed it on the desk without a word.
John barely glanced at the stone. Spalling. The mountain sheds rock every freeze-thaw season. You know that.
Spalling doesn't leave nostril curves, John. This was carved.
John's hand trembled as he shoved the fragment into a drawer, refusing to meet Patrick's stare.
John Dorsey had supervised the station for 30 years. He knew exactly what the mountain did.
That night, Patrick unlocked the archive room and spread out the old articles on Borglum's Hall of Records. Tucked beneath the articles, a leather-bound diary surfaced, initials AR embossed on the cover. Albert Rourke, a name from the station's faded roster. The brittle pages crackled as he read. July 1964, full moon. I broke Rule 4, I counted them. There is a fifth face. Not a president. A man, eyes closed, emerging beside Roosevelt.
The description echoed what he'd seen, a face that didn't belong. And Albert had written it, looked like someone he knew.
His stomach dropped as he read on. Broad jaw, heavy brow, neat mustache. It could be my own face, aged 20 years.
Number. That's impossible. He wasn't from 1964.
But the diary was proof that the phenomenon predated him, and it mirrored his own features.
Albert had ended with a single line. The mountain chooses, and I think it's chosen me. Patrick needed to know for certain. The next full moon was July. He would bring the camera and count.
He slipped the Hall of Records key back into his pocket. The brass was cold, like the mountain skin. The night of the July full moon, Patrick triple-checked his department camera and loaded fresh batteries into his flashlight.
Lena's voice cut through the quiet. You are going to count them tonight, aren't you?
Just extra patrol. Full moon brings out the curious, Patrick said, avoiding her gaze.
You warned me about Rule 4. Now you are the one testing it.
He had no answer. She saw through him.
Lena didn't press further. She left him to his extra patrol, but the doubt lingered in the doorway. Patrick waited until full dark, then walked alone to the base. The granite glowed white under the rising moon. He set the department camera on a rock, framing Roosevelt's profile in the screen.
His heart hammered. 22 years of rules, and he was about to shatter one.
The full moon climbed above Lincoln's head, and the count began.
1. Lincoln. 2. Jefferson. 3. Roosevelt. 4. Washington.
He saw the fifth before the number left his mouth. A face half emerged from the granite beside Roosevelt. Eyes closed, ancient and worn.
He couldn't look away. The thing had no eyelashes, no hair, just the grim line of a mouth.
The camera shutter snapped, white light bleaching the cliff for an instant. On the screen, the face remained, solid and wrong, weathered by centuries that never were.
The rule hadn't been superstition. It had been a warning.
He grabbed the phone and ran, not stopping until the station door slammed behind him. Inside, breathless, he stared at the photo, the fifth face still there. Eyes shut, waiting.
By morning, it would be gone. It had to be.
He locked himself in, the phone clutched to his chest, and waited for the light. Dawn broke gold over the mountain, and Patrick forced himself to the overlook. The granite was smooth where the fifth face had been. Nothing but the familiar 4. He pulled out his phone and opened the photo. The screen hissed with static, the image corrupted beyond recognition.
There was no proof, just a night's madness branded into his memory.
But Albert's diary had described the same vanishing. He wasn't the first.
He needed to tell John. If anyone knew the truth, it was the man who'd hidden the nose-shaped rock.
He walked to the station, the dead phone heavy in his pocket. Inside, the morning light hadn't yet reached John's cluttered office. He found John at his desk, reading glasses perched low, and stood there, the silence unbearable.
He had to tell him. Even if it sounded insane, someone had to know. John, I broke Rule 4 last night. I counted them under the full moon.
John's face drained of color. You did what? After 22 years, you broke the one rule that...
Patrick cut him off. There was a fifth face, half-formed, right of Roosevelt. Eyes closed.
Half-formed. You are certain it was incomplete? John's voice dropped to a whisper.
He rose without another word and led Patrick to a heavy metal cabinet in the corner, key already in hand. The lock clicked and the drawer slid open, revealing manila envelopes labeled with dates. John slid out a yellowed monochrome photograph of the mountain, a fifth face, clear as day, nestled beside Washington. He laid out more photos from 1941, 1957, 1972. Each one different, each one impossible.
A documented history, a mountain that grew extra faces on full moons. This was the proof.
Every caretaker who counts sees it, and the face is always the same man, Patrick. The mountain never lies.
Patrick lifted the 1941 photograph, his thumb tracing the ghostly extra face. He's not a president. Who is he?
The next caretaker. Every decade since Borglum, the mountain carves the face of the one who will watch over it after the current keeper falls.
He spread the 1972 image. A man with a heavy brow and closed eyes, nestled beside Roosevelt, the same face in 1957, positioned above Lincoln. Then 1990, a man with a mustache, his features sharper.
The face is always the same man, not a ghost. Patrick, a person, someone assigned to this station.
The jawline was familiar, the set of the brow, but he couldn't place it.
The mountain doesn't choose strangers. It chooses someone the current caretaker already knows. It's always been someone close.
Patrick stared at the 1990 photo. A middle-aged man, mustached. Something disturbingly familiar about the slope of his nose.
He'd seen that man somewhere before. In a mirror. No, that was madness.
You've been here long enough to understand, Patrick. The mountain doesn't show us strangers. It shows us what we're not ready to see.
Back at his post that evening, Patrick couldn't sleep. He held the 1990 photograph beside his own dim reflection in the station window. The mustache, the jawline, the weariness creasing the eyes, aged by decades, but undeniably his.
It wasn't just familiar, it was him.
He burst into John's office without knocking, the photo shaking in his grip.
It's me, John. The fifth face. It's my face. 30 years older. You knew.
Yes. The mountain began carving your face the day you were assigned here. I've been waiting for you to see.
John tapped the 1990 photo. The face emerges slowly, but once you counted, it accelerated. Look at the mountain tonight.
The face will keep emerging until you accept your role. That's why we have the rules to delay the inevitable.
Accept his role. What did that mean? Was there no escape?
John didn't answer. He simply placed the Hall of Records key on the desk. The answers are in the mountain. When you are ready, John slid a thicker leather journal across the desk. Albert's full account. You only read the early entries. The later pages detailed Albert's torment. August. The face opens its eyes only when I sleep. I see it every night now. October. A compulsion. I feel a pull toward the mountain every third Friday. It whispers that I belong to the granite. November. I can't resist anymore. I must climb. The mountain has chosen, and I am the caretaker. The journal ended there. Albert never returned.
The mountain calls its caretakers when their time is near. It will call you, Patrick. You'll feel it before you see it.
That night, alone at the overlook, Patrick felt it. A whisper, a faint tug in his chest toward the granite.
It's already starting. The compulsion Albert wrote about.
He stepped back from the edge, but his boots seemed heavier, as if the mountain had already claimed a part of him.
Next, third Friday is only 2 weeks away. How long can I fight it?
The third Friday descended, and Patrick locked himself in the station. But when he opened his eyes, he was at the mountain's base. His harness was already buckled. Ropes trailed from his waist to the granite face above.
Sleepwalking. The mountain pulled me here without consent.
He fumbled his radio. John, I am at the base. I don't know how I got here.
Don't move. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't touch the rock.
John found him shivering, still roped, his flashlight dead.
The mountain is calling you to climb. There's only one way to satisfy it safely. Enter the hall and sign the contract.
What contract? What will it do to me?
Acknowledgement of your bond. It will seal the fifth face's eyes. But you'll be bound to the mountain until your own face is finished.
Patrick felt the key in his pocket. The hall was his only choice. He nodded. John led him behind the tourist path to a cleft in the granite where the Hall of Records door waited, rusted and inscribed. The old key turned with a grinding echo, and the steel groaned inward, releasing a breath of cold, dry air. Inside, the chamber was a cathedral of shadow. Patrick's flashlight swept across walls dense with carved names. At his eye level, a fresh carving stood out among the centuries-old script. Patrick Hawks, 2025.
Every name on that wall was a caretaker. The mountain records us before we ever sign.
2025. That's 21 years from now, less than half his career.
Signing the ledger seals the face for a time. It halts the emergence until the carved date. But you'll be bound. The mountain will call you back when the final year comes, and you must answer.
A temporary reprieve, not an escape. But what choice did he have?
The stone altar held an open ledger, a quill resting beside the page where his name had been written decades ago.
His hand trembled over the page. What was he truly signing away? His will, his future, his soul. John, if I refuse, if I let the face open its eyes, what happens?
30 years ago, I knelt before this same stone and signed. Every caretaker in this chamber did the same. If the fifth face's eyes open, the mountain wakes fully. The granite remembers, and it will remake the world.
The chamber seemed to hold its breath. Somewhere deep in the stone, a pulse beat like a distant heart.
It's not just your survival. It's the world's. Only the contract keeps the eyes shut.
His own face, half carved in the stone above, would become a doorway to something monstrous. He couldn't let that happen.
He dipped the quill. Black ink pooled at the tip, ready to bind him. His voice cracked as he spoke, the beginning of his name.
Patrick Hawks.
The quill finished its stroke with a sound like stone grinding on stone. The mountain answered with a deep groan. Air pressure plummeted in the chamber, and the unnatural pull vanished from Patrick's limbs as if a chain had snapped.
The compulsion was gone. In its place, a cold, steady bond, like he could feel the granite's weight on his soul.
They emerged into the gray dawn. The hall's steel door swung shut behind them, sealing the darkness once more. Patrick raised his eyes to the monument. The fifth face, his face was still there, but the eyes were closed, serene in the morning light.
You're the official caretaker now, Patrick. The mountain has accepted you. John's voice was hollow with shared knowledge.
Official. As if a signature could make this violation of nature official.
The immediate danger had passed, but the date carved in the hall waited, and the mountain would call again.
Now you're part of this place. The granite remembers, and one day it will ask for the rest of you. John didn't smile.
For now, he was alive. For now, the eyes were closed. But the weight of 2025 settled on him, heavier than the rock itself.
Days later, the granite's whispers became his constant companion, a low, grinding murmur beneath every patrol.
The mountain had a pulse now. His own heartbeat synced to its deep rhythm, a bond he could never sever.
His reflection deepened with each dawn, the face from the 1990 photograph surfacing in his own skin.
He was becoming the prophecy faster than he'd feared. The bond was pulling him toward the stone, year by year.
Yet a grim peace settled over him. The price for keeping the fifth face's eyes shut. For the world's safety. He opened a blank journal and began to write, recording every truth for whoever would stand here after him. The pages filled with descriptions of whispers, the aging, and the precise cold weight of the contract.
He stood before the monument some nights and felt the fifth face watching him back, a brother carved from the same debt.
But peace never lasted. The date 2025 sat in his mind like a slowly closing door, louder on each third Friday.
He was the caretaker. The mountain had chosen him, and one day it would call for the rest.
2 years later, Patrick trained a new ranger at the monument base, his voice roughened by time and granite dust. Lena stood apart, no longer the student. He dismissed the recruit and turned to Lena. The rule sheet lay on the table between them, but the real lesson had never been written.
You've seen what this mountain does. You are not the skeptic you were.
From his pocket, he drew the Hall of Records key, the same one John had given him, and pressed it into her palm.
Then I am next, aren't I? The mountain's already started something.
It always starts before you are ready. The rules are a delay, not a shield.
What should I expect?
The mountain already knows.
She closed her fingers around the cold iron, and the weight of the caretaker's lineage settled onto her shoulders.
The cycle never broke. It only passed hands.
The third Friday of his 48th year, the pull returned, fiercer than before. A command. He left a single note on the station desk. Now you are the caretaker. The rules are real. At dusk, without rope or harness, he pressed his hands to the granite and began to climb.
The rock held him. Each seam accepted his fingers. The mountain pulled him upward like a mother reclaiming a child.
He climbed past Roosevelt and into the cleft where the hall's door sat ajar. Above him, the fifth face. His face slowly opened its eyes. The granite lids peeled back to reveal hollow, knowing darkness. Patrick's physical form frayed at the edges as he stepped into the darkness of the hall, becoming one with the stone. The steel door sealed shut with a groan. Outside, the fifth face stared out over the black hills, its open eyes a permanent sentinel. The mountain was satisfied. Patrick Hawks was gone. Only the granite remembered him, and it would remember forever. Dawn found Lena alone in the station. Patrick's note lay on the desk, the ink still sharp. "Now you are the caretaker. The rules are real." She read the words once, then crushed the paper in her fist. Through her binoculars, the fifth face stared back with Patrick's features, its open eyes a bottomless accusation.
He looked out from the granite now. Not dead, only translated into stone.
She lowered the binoculars, but a new detail caught her eye. A faint outline in the rock beside Patrick's face.
Already. The mountain was already carving her.
Back in the station, she uncapped a pen and added a sixth rule to the yellowed sheet. Believe the caretaker. The pen rested beside the old brass key, and she let her fingers brush the cold iron.
The mountain already knew her name. All she could do was accept the weight.
The rule sheet caught the first light, the new command stark against the old warnings. The caretaker had changed. The rules endured. Months later, under a full moon, Lena stood at the overlook alone. The rules heavy in her mind. She counted them. A ritual now. Lincoln, Jefferson, Roosevelt, Washington, and then the fifth, Patrick's face carved beside Roosevelt, eyes staring wide. Then her voice caught. Beyond the familiar five, a sixth indentation was taking shape. The curve of a forehead, the line of a nose, eyes still closed. The new face was a mirror, a younger version of herself, trapped in the stone. The mountain groaned, a deep, organic murmur that vibrated through the ground and into her bones.
I understand.
She didn't flinch. The compulsion hadn't taken her yet, but the bond was already there. Patrick's granite eyes bore down from above, a permanent witness to the next keeper's surrender. She turned away and walked back toward the station, the key cold in her pocket. The faces watched her go. 5 presidents, 1 caretaker, and the beginning of another. The mountain would wait.